Hello and welcome. I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top headlines of the hour. Japan warns citizens in China to be extra cautious as Taiwan tensions rise and anti-Japan sentiment grows. The embassy advises avoiding crowds, staying alert and respecting local customs as the US pulls a missile system from Japan amid the dispute. Russia slams France for agreeing to supply 100 Rafale jets to Ukraine as Paris and Kiev deepen their defensive partnership. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov calls the deal regrettable and says it will not bring peace. Russia and the United States have reportedly discussed the possibility of conducting another prisoner exchange. Russia says it hopes this move will create more trust between the countries. US lawmakers are set to advance a bill to release government records on Jeffrey Epstein after Trump's sharp U-turn. With around 100 Republicans ready to break ranks, the Epstein Files Transparency Act now appears certain to pass. President Trump says he will not rule out sending US troops to Venezuela as he signals he is open to direct talks with Nicolas Maduro. Trump says he is willing to hear Maduro's proposals as Washington warns of further military escalation. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal has signalled that US and India are making progress on the trade agreement. This comes amid the ongoing long-standing trade disputes between the countries over tariff barriers. The UK's Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has defended the sweeping changes in the UK's asylum system. She has slammed it as out of control and unfair. So far this year, 111,000 people have claimed asylum in the UK. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he will travel to Turkey on Wednesday to push for renewed negotiations with Russia to end the war. A Turkish source says US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will also join the meetings as Kyiv prepares new proposals for peace. We start this hour in West Asia, and Palestinian Foreign Minister Varsen Agyabekian Shanin has said that the UN Security Council's adoption of a resolution endorsing US President Donald Trump's plan to end the war in Gaza was a necessary first step on the long road towards peace. On Monday, the Security Council adopted the US-drafted resolution, which also authorizes the deployment of a multinational security force to Gaza. The resolution's text also allows member states to join a board of peace to oversee Gaza's reconstruction and economic recovery. Shani noted that other critical issues remain unresolved, including Palestinian self-determination and eventual independence. He emphasized that the process for implementing Trump's plan must adhere to international law. The Palestinian Authority, based in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank, previously welcomed the vote and expressed its willingness to participate in Trump's plan. However, the plan does not provide a clear role for the PA. European and Arab states have insisted that Gaza must be governed by the Palestinian Authority and that a clear pathway to Palestinian independence must be established. The Israeli government, which opposes an independent Palestinian state, rejects any involvement by the Palestinian Authority. This is what the Palestinian Foreign Minister has said.
The UN resolution is the first step in a long road towards peace. That step was needed because we could not embark on anything else before we had a ceasefire. So the ceasefire is important, and it has been important for saving Palestinian lives. But it means that there are other issues that we need to tackle. It means we need to ensure that this is governed by international law, that it's not divorced from the New York Declaration, that it truly embodies the issue of self-determination.
We're now joined by Yossi Kupawasa. He is an Israeli intelligence and security expert, and he joins us live from Tel Aviv. Thank you very much, Yossi, for joining us. Israel rejects any role for the Palestinian Authority, which of course are based out of Ramallah. Why are they opposed to such a body governing Palestine?
Well, the Palestinian Authority, they governed Gaza until 2006, but they were kicked out by Hamas because they were too weak and too corrupt, and the Palestinians themselves kicked them out by shooting them and throwing them from the 15th floor of the high-rising buildings of Gaza. So that's what happened, and that's how they left Gaza. We left Gaza beforehand. We left Gaza in 2005 and left it in the hands of the Palestinian Authority that couldn't rule it. So, and I don't think they got any stronger in Gaza ever since then. So it's a dangerous move to let them govern Gaza, because this would eventually lead again to Gaza being governed by Hamas. And besides that, there's a big problem with the Palestinian Authority, because they are also involved in promoting terror, and they pay salaries to terrorists that are carrying out attacks against Israelis. This is something that has to be changed.
Yes.
So the plan says that for them to have a role, they have to go through reforms. And let's see if they are going to go through those reforms.
Yossi, if not the Palestinian Authority, who does Israel expect to run Gaza in the long term?
I think that the plan is very clear, that there are going to be Palestinians living in Gaza who are not part of the PA, who are not part of Hamas, that are going to be governing Gaza. These are, at the beginning, they're going to be technocrats. And I hope that in the later on future, there are going to be people that are interested in improving the living conditions of the people of Gaza, and not in turning Gaza into a launching pad for terror attacks against Israel, as was the case with Hamas, and this was the case with the Palestinian Authority too. That has to change. Even that's why there's going to be a process of de-radicalization, and I hope that this process is going to be successful and will enable them to govern Gaza. In the meanwhile, Gaza is going to be governed by the Palestinian technocrats and by the Board of Peace headed by President Trump. That's going to overlook the rest of the bodies that are going to be established, like the International Stabilisation Force and the governing temporary authority that is going to take care of Gaza in the meanwhile.
Yeah, and Yossi, the resolution backs, of course, a multinational security force. Is Israel prepared to cooperate with foreign troops on the ground that do not cross Israel's red lines? And what are those red lines?
Well, I think we are going to be involved in the process of vetting who is going to be a party of this force. And we are not going to let in forces that are known to be very close to Hamas, like Turkey and Qatar. But there are other forces, Arab and Muslim forces, that can be involved, and the international forces that can be involved that are not close to Hamas and are not going to cooperate with Hamas. And we hope that this force that's going to get full support and cooperation is going to be successful in making sure that Gaza is not going to be unstable, and that Gaza would not be a launching pad, as I said, for future terror attacks against Israel.
Okay, Yossi Kupawasa, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. It's a pleasure to have you. We now move on and to some further developments coming out of the Israel-Gaza crisis. And Palestinians in Gaza City are uncertain about the UN resolution on Trump's Gaza plan, while some factions reject it, claiming it does not serve Palestinian interests. The Palestinian Authority has welcomed it. Critics argue that the resolution may place American trusteeship over Palestinian territories, with Trump leading the Peace Council alongside figures like Tony Blair, neither Palestinian nor Arab, suggesting potential foreign control. The key issue remains whether this resolution will be effectively implemented on the ground, as many past resolutions have failed to materialise. It also raises concerns about further fragmentation, particularly in Gaza. Let's listen in to some Palestinians.
يعتبر الفلسطينيين أن هذا القرار هو قرار وصاية على الفلسطينيين في قطاع غزة، ولا يعبر عن طموح وآمال الفلسطينيين بتحقيق السلام وإقامة دولة فلسطينية. من بين ما برز في بنود هذا الاتفاق أن يكون هناك مسار فلسطيني، مسار للسلام تديره الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية ما بين الفلسطينيين والإسرائيليين، يفضي أو قد يفضي إلى إقامة دولة.
We move next to Europe, and Russia has slammed France for signing a deal to provide up to 100 Rafale fighter jets to Ukraine, saying it's fueling the war. This comes after France and Ukraine signed a letter of intent to bolster the defence capabilities of Ukraine. Air defence systems, munitions, drones, 100 made French Rafale warplanes are part of a 10-year deal signed between the two countries. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has called the supply of the fighter jets to Ukraine regrettable and have said that it does not contribute to peace. Meanwhile, there has been a surge of Russian drone and missile attacks on Ukraine in the recent weeks, and Moscow has reported multiple ground advances in the southern Zaporozhye region. Joining us now is Professor Veselin Popovsky. He's a professor and vice dean at Jindal Global Law School, and he joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Professor Popovsky, for sitting with us on this topic. This deal that was signed yesterday, how much of a difference is it going to make to Ukraine on the battlefield in the short term and the long term?
Well, not much on the short term. It's a long-term deal. It's basically for the next 10 years, 100 Rafale jets will be produced and supplied with all the equipment, with all the training of the pilots. And for that matter, the Russian statement is absolutely inadequate. It's not going to be soon. Probably the first jets will be ready only by the end of next year, and the end of the contract is 2035. So it's a long-term plan to improve and to strengthen, especially the defense system. These jets are important because they can intercept in the air a lot of missiles, and that's the purpose here. But in addition to that, in addition to the Rafale 100 jets, there is a second contract, and that is more important, to supply Ukraine with defense system, air defense system. And obviously this again doesn't escalate anything. Ukrainians simply would like to protect their lives, and that was exactly what President Zelensky said. We need more air defense system because what we see over the last weeks is that about 70% or 75% of the drones and the missiles, Iskander and Shahid, are intercepted, but the other 20-25% are not, and those missiles and drones hit mostly civilian targets in big cities, including also infrastructure, including energy supply systems. And because it's already, winter is approaching in Ukraine, and that reflects negatively on the population.
Yes, and Professor Popovsky, what do you make of the Kremlin statement when they say that this doesn't contribute to peace, while of course also missing out on those talks in Ankara on Wednesday?
Well, I will ask Russians, what do they contribute to the peace? Zero. In fact, this is the aggressor talking. They should, it's very easy for Vladimir Putin to achieve peace. He just needs a phone call to the generals and to tell them to stop firing. That's simple, 1 minute. Peace will come immediately if Vladimir Putin makes a single phone call to the military commanders and say, stop the fire, simple. Why they're asking France or European Union or Americans or Ukrainians or anybody else what they do for peace? They do for peace what they do for peace. They fight for survival. Ukraine is under danger of survival. That's why Ukraine is defending every single citizen of this country. by using air defense, by using any possible equipment they can get from the European Union, from other allies. So this is a nonsense what Kremlin is talking about.
Yes, Professor Popowski, do stay with us as we have further news updates coming out of Europe, coming for our viewers next. And the Polish Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, has said that an explosion has damaged a Polish railway track on a route to Ukraine, and it was an unprecedented act of sabotage. He has vowed to catch those responsible for the incident. The blasts on the Warsaw-Lublin line that connects the capital to the Ukraine border, followed by a wave of arson, sabotage and cyber attacks in Poland and other European countries since the start of the Russia-Ukraine war. Meanwhile, Polish Services spokesperson has said that everything points towards the Russian Intelligence Commission, Polish railway sabotage. Okay, joining us now once again is Professor Popowski. Of course, Russia thrives with hybrid warfare. What do you have to say about the Polish Prime Minister's claims that this was indeed Russia acting with an act of sabotage, a logistical act of sabotage? What were your thoughts when you heard this?
Yes, it very much looks so. Again, it's not 100% yet confirmed, but obviously, and it is not the first time, Russia has been sabotaging many objects and targets, and not only in Poland, but also in the Baltic states, in Romania, and in other European countries, in Denmark even. There were drones intercepted in several airports all over Europe over the last month and a half, 2 months. So again, if any such incident occurs, obviously the first lead will go into possible Russian interference and possible contribution of the Russian agencies, spies, secret services, and everybody else. So that, again, no surprise what the Polish minister is saying, because it looks like, well, it's not actually a hidden strategy of Russia to disrupt in every possible way the life in Europe, especially the neighboring country in Poland and Baltic states, somehow to demoralize the population there, to inflict pain on citizens of those neighboring countries, and somehow to expect that they will, in a sense, protest against the war and kind of raise voices why the governments in those European countries support Ukraine. Somehow asking people to protest against their government's failure is effectively very long time, I would say, over the last 11, 12 years, Russia is trying those action of sabotage and of jeopardizing communications. As you correctly pointed, it's a hybrid war. They use cyber crime, cyber attacks, and similar nasty methods.
Yes, and of course, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has said that this all points to Russian intelligence. We, as you have said, do not know that to be true yet. But if Moscow is behind this, is this Russia essentially once again testing NATO's red lines, even contradictory to its statements that it has no intention of attacking NATO, oppressing NATO in any way?
Yes, this is the game, exactly, Thomas. They are not attacking NATO directly, but they are basically causing those disruptions. They basically try in every possible way to produce some sort of, disruption, some kind of some electricity cuts, anything that can disrupt the normal life in the European countries, Russia will use as much as possible, including information, including propaganda wars. So on one hand, they can say we don't attack NATO directly with invasion and military force, but doing all of those cyber attacks, all those sabotages, effectively is another type of war. In fact, we can talk about the modern war not simply as in the classical sense of armies fighting with weapons, but using those cyber attacks, sabotages as a new form of warfare, and we might see those even more often during the next years and in the entire 21st century.
Yes, Professor Popovsky, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. It's always a pleasure to have you on the programme. Well, now we stay in Europe for our next story, and the European Commission has launched a series of market investigations into the cloud computing operations of Amazon and Microsoft, two of the world's largest technology companies. The probes fall under the Digital Markets Act, the EU's landmark competition law, designed to rein in big tech dominance and ensure fair competition for smaller industry players. According to the Commission, two of the investigations will examine whether Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure should be formally designated as gatekeepers, a classification that imposes stricter obligations on firms considered capable of controlling access to digital key markets. A third investigation will assess whether the DMA, as clearly written, is sufficient to address anti-competitive practices in the cloud computing sector, an area in which concerns have grown alongside rapid industry expansion. The Commission said it intends to conclude all three investigations within 12 months, setting the stage for possible regulatory action or additional oversight measures should the companies be found in violation of DMA requirements. Now we turn to the Vatican, and Pope Leo XIV is calling on the world's leaders at the United Nations climate talks to take what he calls concrete actions to confront climate change, warning that humanity is falling in its response as God's creation is crying out in floods, droughts, storms, and relentless heat. In a video message to religious leaders gathered in Barlem, the Pope said that while nations have made progress, quote unquote, it's not enough, noting that 1 in 3 people now live in severe climate vulnerability. His remarks come as ministers from around the world arrive for the second week of negotiations with nations from the global south urging stronger commitments. Leo, the first American Pope, said there's still time to meet the Paris Agreement's goals, but political will is lacking. UN Climate Chief Simon Steele praised the message, saying it challenges leaders to choose hope and action. Let's listen in to some excerpts from the Pope's video message.
You chose hope and action over despair, building a global community that works together. This has delivered progress, but not enough. Hope and determination must be renewed, not only in words and aspirations, but also in concrete actions.
Well, that's all that we have time for this hour. Keep watching NewsX World for more international news updates.